So hello everyone, thank you for having me here. Thank you Altis for the invitation. Very interesting presentation in the beginning to understand how the program works and the ecosystem of partnerships that can come from there through Altis in your case. Thank you Lux also for bringing us here, and also for we're in Lux since 1 year and a half more or less, so in Cascais, so for some time for the Cascais one, which is more recent. And it's been a pleasure there. It's clear that with the pandemics, it's flexible. It's, as you mentioned in your presentation, it's an interesting concept and environment when you need to be flexible. Sometimes we've remoted parts of the team. People have changed to the north or to the south, depending on where they were before. So there's a lot of advantages that come from there. I would like to talk a bit about Unique. I'll try to make it as brief as possible, touching essentially 2 points, what we are and what we are doing, but also how can our product and our activity link to the digital transition, as I think we are exceptionally well positioned to be in one particular part of the transition. So what we do in our company, Unique, I'm Pedro, I'm founder and CEO. We do face authentication on any device. What this means is that there's a problem right now, and there's been for a long time, which is the time that everyone spends every day to prove who they are. Whether it's physically in stores, whether it's online, there's a lot of wasted time that people these days waste for things like recovering passwords or recovering access cards, issuing those cards in the first place, paying, getting loyalty cards out, getting these things to go into the conference, as I just did, which was fast, by the way, but it could be faster. There's a lot of tokens that people need to use. As I said, all these cards that you have to carry with you, even keys for locks, everything. So in all of these cases, there's an identity that's being checked, or a part of your identity that's being checked. And to authenticate yourself, to say, I am the authorized person to do this, you need to prove something. And our vision, and I will explain that in a second, is that we can use our face to do that. So if you use your face to do that, a big challenge comes in, which pops into everyone's mind right from the beginning, which is privacy. So if I'm able to use my face to look at a checkout store, self-checkout kiosk, for example, in the supermarket, and pay and get my loyalty details passed, what happens if I look to some other camera and some hacker is doing something? Or even if the supermarket is doing something with my data afterwards. So what we have tried to overcome and we have solved are 3 main challenges that come from this from this face authentication. Well, first of all, it's the privacy, as I described. So today there's a lot of solutions that tend to create a centralized database of biometrics. So access control is a good example. You go to your job, you need to use your face or your fingerprint to enter the company. There needs to be a central database of biometrics. And we don't believe in that model because it's hackable. It's also there's a honeypot of information in one place, but also we as users lose control of who is authenticating yourself. The other thing is there's a lot of digital identity. In the digital identity space, there's a lot of different identities coming along, and they are not necessarily compatible with each other. So there needs to be interoperability between all these tokens that people use to prove their identity online or offline, so that if you use your face, you should be able to use any of those in the same way. And thirdly, for developers, which is one of our main audiences, when they want to bring this technology to their applications, first thing that needs to be there is it should take minutes for them to bring it to their application and not become experts in biometrics, become experts in cryptography, or understand how authentication works in the first place. So it should be very, very easy. So all of these 3 challenges is something we believe we have achieved with our current technology. Our solution is essentially you use your face as a way to authenticate instantly and very accurately. We've created and devised our own algorithm for facial authentication, which is certified and submitted to the international benchmark with very good results. And then we allow you to register once with that authentication with a selfie on the phone, and you can reuse that for all of these other activities that you add to the wallet. But the most important part For those two things, it's difficult, but it's doable. For the third part, it's where we think we have a huge edge in terms of the privacy, is we have created a way of separating your biometrics in a way that my company will not be able to authenticate you without a little piece of information only you have. And the other way around as well. To authenticate, you will need to link to our service. So only the two parts will become the way to use your biometrics. So a hacker gets hold of your phone will not be able to authenticate you. If a hacker gets hold of our cloud premises or whatever happens in our cloud, they won't be able to authenticate you. So this sums up the solution, and sorry for the long introduction, but I think it's important to understand exactly what we are doing. So this is now applicable to many. Let me just go over this. So this is applicable to many, of course, transversal to many verticals. So if you look at digitalization, digital transition or digital transformation, both of them, if you look at them in all of these verticals, identity plays a huge role. So in retail, you need to pay, you need to use loyalty if you want, you need to pass maybe tax number. There's information you need to pass around. In the digital workplace, there's also, your identity as an employee. We have corporate login credentials, application logins, etc., which you can use just by using your face. All of the banking, onboarding of clients with an identity that already exists. So just to explain a little bit better, we are not a digital identity provider. That already exists. In Portugal, you have AMA as providing a service for that, but you have, global companies kind of digitizing your passport and creating digital identities that you can use. We are not positioned as that. We want people to be able to use their face to use those identities that they already have. Healthcare, hospitality, to do a check-in in a hotel. There's many, many cases. So many companies will link to any of these, to some of these or one of these verticals. And if you want to have, a secure and convenient and private, much well beyond GDPR, private way of authenticating with your face, then our solution is applicable to that. So I think, just before I conclude, what I believe in the plan, in the program, the resilience program you just mentioned, and in Portugal 2030, we are very well positioned as well to be a partner in many of these applications. We have extensive experience with Horizon 2020 and Portugal 2020, and we are really looking forward to take this and integrate it into different applications. Because for us, we have a product that it's very B2B, so people will, if they need to use authentication with a biometric mode to it, then they will need to integrate our solution. It's not like we are providing that solution to the end public. So all of the companies that need authentication, they could be using this. So thank you very much again for the invitation.